Despite his limited familiarity with conversational Persian, Iqbal's poetry is a testament to his innate genius and talent, rich in beauty and depth. His works are treasures of Persian literature, inspiring and intriguing readers with their profound beauty. One might even imagine that, had he been born and raised in Shiraz, he could have been regarded as the lisan al-ghaib, the tongue of the unseen, of the modern age. According to Lotfali Suratgar, some of Iqbal's ghazals are so evocative that readers feel as though they are seated on the veranda of Hafez. Hossein Khatibi even called him the Hafez of the atomic age. Other distinguished literary critics have stated that Iqbal's poetry stands out due to its novel and progressive ideas. These concepts, or similar ones, can also be found in the poetry of modernist poets of today, engaging and enlightening readers. For example, the following couplet echoes a sentiment also found in Nima Yushij's Ai Adamha, O people, O you who sit idly by the shore, arise, for the maelstrom and the whale still await you. In his socio-political poetry, Iqbal employs artistic symbolism, such as the garden, which serves as a metaphor for the fragmented Islamic world. This allegory, like Akhavan Saleh's, connects readers to the plight of the Muslims who have forgotten their essence and identity. Instead of rising with action and creativity, they complain about the advanced world. Like Akhavan, Iqbal attributes this backwardness to the inability of leaders, whom he calls the caravan guides, to recognize the realities and needs of the era. In this garden, the birds' hearts are of another age. The rose branch differs, and so does the nest. Look inward. Why do you speak ill of the world's herds? If your vision changes, the world will change too. Iqbal's vision often aligns with Akhavan's symbolic portrayal in poems like Bagh-e-Man, My Garden, which can be equated with Iran-e-Man, My Iran. Day and night it stands alone, with its pure and sorrowful silence. This despair also appears in Ibrahim Golistan's Spring of Grief, where he writes, What befell this garden? What befell it, that it has forgotten the customs of spring? Why does the narcissus bow its head in sorrow? Why does the dove sit like a stranger? It is worth noting that the origin of such metaphors like the garden or meadow can be traced back to Hafez. For instance, in his famous verse expressing despair, he writes, The company of tyrants is like the long night of Yalda. Seek light from the sun, perhaps it will rise. Similarly, in another ghazal, Hafez states, The storm of calamities leaves no trace in this meadow of either flowers or herbs. This theme resonates in Iqbal's ghazal. If your vision changes with the times, the tavern's path and the Magian's ways will change. This is reminiscent of Sohrab Sepehri's famous line, Eyes must be washed. One must see differently. Ahmad Shamloo, in his poem The Source from Fresh Air, says, Through the windows of my heart I gaze at your stars, for every star is a sun. Iqbal too expresses a similar sentiment. I seek sparks from the stars I seek the sun. I have no resting place, no destination for my repose. The parallels between Iqbal's poetry and the works of modernist poets like Shamloo reveal recurring themes and thought-provoking ideas. For instance, when Shamloo states, Here lies the eternal altar where the worshipper, the worshipped, the worship and the temple are but one. This can be compared to the essence of Iqbal's ghazal. We are estranged from God, he searches for us. Like us, he is needy and bound by longing. At times he writes messages on petals, at other times he whispers through the hearts of birds. This unity of worshipper and worshipped is a recurring theme in Iqbal's poetry. He envisions a creator who desires to reshape the world and produce more profound, enlightened beings. Disillusioned with humankind, particularly within the Islamic world, he laments, Create a new design, a more mature human. To craft toys of clay does not befit the divine. This frustration, evident in Iqbal's desire for societal reform, resonates in the works of other poets and thinkers, including Rumi's poignant lines. The sheikh with a lantern roamed the city, saying, I am weary of beasts and devils, I long for a human. Similarly, Hafez, in his quest for renewal, declares, Man cannot be found in this earthly realm. A new world must be built and man remade. A living being is the embodiment of harmony, and human beings, being the supreme of all creatures, need to understand and observe this inherent balance in nature. This balance, which stretches from the individual's inner world to the outside universe, is not just a path to finding true peace and ultimate happiness, but also a source of enlightenment and empowerment. Human life, in its essence, is like a melody, constantly adjusting and tuning to various circumstances. As each human has unique qualities and characteristics, so do their challenges and struggles. The ability to adapt and overcome them comes from a deep understanding of self and the natural order. From a spiritual perspective, true enlightenment is not something external, but a reflection of the peace found within. This enlightenment requires patience, introspection, and unwavering dedication to personal growth. Through this inner transformation, one can elevate their consciousness, transcend the mundane, and connect with the divine essence of the universe. Furthermore, every being plays a vital role in the web of life, with no one being superior or inferior to another. The interconnectedness of all beings is a truth that, once understood, can lead to a profound sense of unity and empathy. This realization fosters respect and kindness, promoting a more harmonious existence and a deeper connection with all life forms. In this ever-changing world, holding on to timeless values such as compassion, integrity, and humility is crucial. By aligning one's actions with these principles, one can lead a life of purpose and fulfillment, contributing positively to the collective well-being of all and inspiring others to do the same. Iqbal, deeply immersed in the political and religious thoughts of Sayyid Jamal al-Din, also became acquainted with the views of Muhammad Abdu and al-Kawakibi. After Iran, Iqbal held Egypt and its intellectuals in the highest esteem. His admiration for Al-Azhar University and its educational influence was profound and unwavering. Iqbal at the Suez Canal. During a journey from Europe to India, Iqbal passed through the Suez Canal. As the ship docked, several Muslim shopkeepers boarded, and Iqbal conversed with one of the young sellers. When he told the young man he was Muslim, the Egyptian shopkeeper was astonished because Iqbal wore a woolen cap, a quibble. Iqbal recounts that the young man exclaimed, "Are you a Muslim? I am too." The young seller continued by explaining that Muslims who did not have beards wore the tarbush, a red hat with a black tassel. Iqbal reflected on this and wished such an understanding would spread in his land. In his reflections, Iqbal notes that this young Egyptian had memorized the Quran, and after Iqbal recited several verses for him, the shopkeeper expressed profound admiration, praising Iqbal's learning and wishing him success. This brief interaction left a lasting impact on Iqbal, underscoring the unity and strength of the Muslim community. In Egypt, Iqbal visited the port city of Port Said, arriving early in the morning on November 1905. A notable Egyptian doctor named Suleiman woke him up. Iqbal met several members of the Egyptian Muslim Youth Association and was delighted by the experience. Mr. Lutfi Bek, one of Cairo's famous lawyers, sent a message through Suleiman inviting Iqbal to visit Cairo. Iqbal's deepening attachment to Al-Azhar University. During his visit to Cairo, Iqbal realized the significant place of Al-Azhar in the teaching of Arabic language and Islamic studies. He appreciated why many intellectuals from India traveled to Egypt to study there. In a letter to his friend Muhammad Akbar in 1920, Iqbal noted that learning Arabic in Egypt was preferable to doing so in Lebanon. He also wrote to Hafez Muhammad Fazl Rahman Ansari, advising him that moving to Europe would not help him learn Arabic or Islamic knowledge, and suggested he travel to Al-Azhar instead. Iqbal was always keen to follow updates on Islamic studies and intellectual discussions. In a letter to the famous Indian scholar Syed Suleiman Nadvi in 1926, he stated, "Indeed, we are in great need of codifying Islamic law." A booklet on this subject has recently been published in Egypt. Iqbal's letters contain rich insights that offer a glimpse into his biography and reflect his unwavering dedication to intellectual and cultural progress. One of his letters, written in 1926, suggests that after the caliphate's fall in Turkey, some thinkers were drawn to Egypt for inspiration from the Quran and its connection to constitutional law. Iqbal mentioned that once the political turmoil subsides, philosophical issues will emerge. In his poem Bangidra, published in Lahore in 1924, Iqbal tackled the issue of nationalism and tribalism, which had gained popularity among Egyptian politicians. Iqbal's interactions in Lahore with Egyptian visitors involved essential discussions on the Muslim world's political, social, and cultural conditions. In 1927, Iqbal met Fahmi El-Masri, editor of the Al-Fuqaha newspaper in Cairo, and discussed the leadership role Egypt could play in guiding the Muslim nations toward post-colonial unity. Iqbal inquired about who would take on the leadership role for the Muslim community, and Fahmi predicted that it would be the Egyptians due to their hard-working youth. Iqbal's views on Islamic unity continued to develop in his relationships with intellectuals in Egypt. During his visit to Alexandria and Cairo in 1931, he spent time with Sheikh Mohammed El-Ahmadi, the head of Al-Azhar University, and other prominent scholars. Iqbal's philosophical ideas about the self, Qudi, and Islamic revival were well received in Egypt, as he shared these ideas in lectures and writings, mainly focusing on their significance for modern Muslim thought. His emphasis on the importance of individual self-realization, Qudi, and the need for a unified Muslim community resonated with many in Egypt, contributing to his influence in the region. During his travels, Iqbal also met with political figures such as Mustafa al-Nahas Pasha, former Prime Minister of Egypt, and spent time with various religious and academic personalities. His 1931 visit to Egypt was part of his broader effort to connect with the intellectual and cultural movements across the Muslim world, particularly in the aftermath of colonialism. His interactions with political figures like Mustafa al-Nahas Pasha were significant, as they allowed him to understand the political landscape of Egypt and its potential role in the unity of the Muslim world. Upon encountering and understanding the political and religious ideas of Syed Jamaluddin Afghani, Iqbal became familiar with the thoughts of Muhammad Abdu and Kawkabi. After visiting Iran, Iqbal looked toward Egypt with great respect, especially toward the intellectual movements flourishing there. His admiration for the famous Al-Azhar University was a significant factor in his decision to focus on Egypt. During a trip back to India from Europe, Iqbal passed through the Suez Canal. His ship docked there, and a few Muslim shopkeepers came aboard. Iqbal, having a conversation with one of the young sellers after purchasing something, revealed that he was Muslim. The young Egyptian was surprised upon seeing the woolen cap, akaba, on Iqbal's head, and Iqbal recounts in his memoirs that the seller asked, "You're a Muslim? I am too." Upon hearing this, Iqbal inquired, "What's the sign of someone who hasn't embraced Islam? Is it the woolen cap?" The young Egyptian responded, "If a Muslim does not have a beard, he must wear a Turkish hat, tarbush, to show his Muslim identity." Iqbal remarked, "I wish this wise saying could spread in our land." He also recalls that when he recited a few verses from the Quran to the young seller in the proper recitation style, the young man was deeply moved and expressed his admiration with phrases like "Masha'Allah," wishing Iqbal success in his journey. This was the first practical lesson Iqbal learned from the people of Egypt, a lesson that profoundly shaped his thinking. From then on, Iqbal became passionate about forging strong ties with Egypt's intellectuals, scholars, and philosophers. Iqbal arrived in Port Said at 3 in the morning, having just come from Europe. A doctor named Suleiman awakened him, and several young members of the Egyptian Muslim youth organization surrounded Iqbal. He was overjoyed at this meeting. The renowned lawyer, Lutfi Bek, sent a message via Suleiman inviting Iqbal to visit Cairo. Iqbal's dedication to Al-Azhar University was unwavering. Upon reaching Cairo, Iqbal acquainted himself with the esteemed Al-Azhar University and its scholars. He quickly recognized the significance of Al-Azhar, not just in the study of Arabic language and literature, but also in its role in shaping religious and Islamic education. Iqbal was particularly drawn to Al-Azhar's scholarly environment, which attracted many prominent figures from his homeland, India, seeking education in the Arabic language and Islamic studies. In a letter to his friend Muhammad Akbar, written in 1920, he stated that studying Arabic in Egypt was far superior to doing so in Lebanon. He also advised another friend, Hafez Muhammad Fazl-ur-Rahman Ansari, in a separate letter that traveling to Europe would not help him learn Arabic or Islamic studies as effectively as traveling to Al-Azhar in Egypt. Iqbal was not just interested, but eager to follow every new publication and discussion on Islamic studies. In a letter to the renowned Indian scholar Syed Sulaiman Nadvi in 1926, he mentioned a pamphlet on Islamic law published in Egypt. During his time in Egypt, Iqbal was also interested in political and social dynamics. In 1924, he engaged in discussions with Egyptian intellectuals on nationalism and the Arab identity, which were becoming prominent among Egyptian political leaders. In 1927, Iqbal visited the prominent Egyptian journalist Fahmi al-Masri, where they exchanged thoughts on the leadership of the Muslim world, especially in the post-colonial period. El-Masri even wrote a poetic tribute to Iqbal in his praise of him. Iqbal's long-desired visit to Egypt finally materialized in December 1931, when he traveled to Alexandria and Cairo. This trip was part of his larger objective to visit three great Islamic nations, Egypt, Turkey and Iran, and to explore the situations and conditions of the people there. The Egyptians warmly welcomed his visit, with many notable figures and intellectuals eager to meet him. During his stay in Cairo, Iqbal had significant interactions with scholars, including Dr. Abdul Wahab Azam, and delivered an impactful speech on philosophy and the concept of khudi, selfhood, which left a lasting impression on the audience and was later translated into Arabic and published in the Egyptian journal Youth Organizations magazine. Iqbal's visit to Egypt was documented widely, with the Egyptian newspaper Al-Ahram publishing numerous articles in anticipation of his arrival. Al-Ahram highlighted Iqbal's contributions to literature and philosophy in a unique column, acknowledging his status as one of the greatest modern Muslim thinkers. His works, such as Asrar-i Khudi and Payam-i Mashriq, had already been translated into several languages, including English. But the Arab world had yet to appreciate the depth of his ideas fully. In his reflections, Iqbal expressed hope that his message would reach the Arab world as well.
Iqbal's personality is not simply defined by his birth date in February 1873 in Sialkot, Punjab, his lifespan of 63 years, or even his passing in April 1938. His true stature is illuminated through his literary works. His legacy is not just in the temporal world, but in his timeless contributions to literature and philosophy, which resonate long after his death. As he said, "Talak asar natadil alena fanzuru badana ila al-asar." Our works will speak for us. Look to the legacy left behind after us. Iqbal considered himself a poet and philosopher of profound thought. He studied Eastern and Western philosophy and earned degrees from prestigious universities in Lahore, Cambridge, Heidelberg, and Munich. As a scholar, he eventually returned to his homeland and engaged in legal work, politics, and intellectual endeavors. His contributions to the intellectual revival of the Muslim world remain enduring. Although physically departed from this world, Iqbal's thoughts continue to be alive, as he stated, "Bad as fawat markad e ma dar zamin maju dar sinahaye mardome dana mazaara ye mast." Do not search for my grave in the soil. My resting place is in the hearts of wise men. From studying Iqbal's works, it becomes evident that he was a man of action, knowledge, spirituality, and ethics. He viewed service to humanity as the noblest task, burning like a candle to illuminate the lives of others. He saw the path to success and happiness for both individuals and society in the practice of virtue, piety, and adherence to the Quranic teachings, following the final prophet, Muhammad, PBUH. He asserted, "If you wish to live as a Muslim, follow the path of the Quran." And further, "I have seen in the depths of my soul the water of life and the Quran's pages. I have seen in my soul the water of life, and there are worlds beyond this in the Quran's verses." Iqbal also expressed his disdain for hypocrisy and superficial religiosity. He criticized those who, detached from true spirituality, merely recited the Quran but failed to live by its teachings. Ziman bar Sofi o Mulla, Salaman, Vali Tawilash, Dar Hayrat Andakt Kuda o Jibrail o Mustafa Ra ke Pegam Kuda Goftand Ma Ra. I send my salutations to the Sufi and the Mullah, but their interpretations bewilder God, Gabriel, and Muhammad, PBUH. Iqbal believed that the progress and destiny of individuals and nations were tied to effort and resolve, not the whims of fate or celestial movements. He regarded the notion of predestination as baseless and illusionary. He boldly declared, "God grants leadership to the nation who writes its own destiny. It matters not whether the farmer harvests for someone else." Iqbal's vision for a reformed and enlightened world was based on cleansing and purifying thoughts. According to him, the renewal of an individual and a society begins with the purification of thought. He highlighted, "When the thoughts of a nation are corrupted, a new hand must cleanse it before it can rebuild and repair." To Iqbal, knowledge and learning were not mere academic achievements, but rather means for cultivating morality, virtue, and public service. In his view, the pursuit of knowledge and religion was sacred when it was used to serve others, not for material gain or pleasure. He expressed, "The true goal of knowledge and art is to serve. One who seeks just wealth or ease is a fool." Iqbal was also a fervent advocate for independence, urging his fellow citizens to rely on their capabilities. He rejected foreign dependency and promoted the use of local goods, stressing, "What grows from your soil, eat, wear, and use it." Even in his poetry, Iqbal encouraged individuals to live for a higher purpose, awakening a sense of self-awareness and national pride. He was deeply influenced by Persian poets like Rumi and Hafez, yet his creativity reached unprecedented heights. Iqbal's emotional depth, nationalistic fervor, and philosophical insights remain relevant and influential today. His devotion to society's intellectual and spiritual upliftment and his vision of a better world inspire and challenge generations. This Persian poetry is a marvel of beauty and depth, intricately woven with spiritual and philosophical themes that resonate with the human soul. Its profound exploration of divine love, the human soul, and the eternal journey of existence is a testament to the richness of Persian literary traditions, particularly mystical Sufism. The poem's use of metaphors, symbolic imagery, and introspective musings adds a layer of intrigue and captivation to its beauty. It might be helpful to translate and simplify the meaning. So here's an overview of some of the themes: divine love and knowledge. The poem speaks to the longing for sacred union, with the idea that true wisdom and understanding come from surrendering to love and the inner truths of existence. There's a constant dialogue between the self and the divine and references to spiritual enlightenment through the journey of love. Contrasts and paradoxes. Several paradoxes are presented, such as the juxtaposition of life and death, knowledge and ignorance, and the fleeting nature of worldly desires versus the permanence of spiritual truths. Quest for meaning. The verses are a journey of intellectual stimulation, a search for deeper meaning. The poet's suggestion that true peace and understanding come from a reconciliation between the worldly and the divine, knowledge and intuition, engages the mind and stimulates the intellect. transformation, and change. The poet reflects on personal and spiritual transformation, the shedding of old skins, and the emergence of a new self more attuned to divine wisdom. The call of love. I raise a fresh army from the realm of love. It is the rebellion of the intellect that threatens the sacred space. Time knows nothing of his truth. Madness is the cloak that is shaped by the intellect's stature. Do not assume that intellect has no measure or standard. The gaze of a faithful servant is the resurrection of intellect. Do not mourn the fall of my heart upon this world. Do not grieve over its killing, burning, and making anew. It is clear to me that there is nothing that is not love. With 1,000 mirrors, I do not mourn over what I see. He who once wielded the kingdom of Solomon's reign, now I lost it all with people with low incomes in the world. Passing through what cannot be seen and speaks only of what it cannot know, speaks at length but does not bring joy. I have heard the words of the wise, yet the towering date palm doesn't speak of the fruits it bears. What is life? To trap the world within the soul. You, the prisoner of the world, where can you run? Destined to be the worshipped sun and moon, yet you still do not know what you can achieve.